Anchors away, sir.
Slow ahead.
Slow ahead, sir.
Hard right rudder.
Hard right rudder, sir.
Full ahead. Rudder amidships.
Rudder amidships, sir.
Another Standard Oil Company of California tanker is underway to a distant port, one of the fleet that keeps oil flowing around the world. When sail was more important than steam, the full-rigged ship Balclutha carried cases of oil to China. On her sides were painted black squares to resemble gun ports like those on a man-o'-war to scare off the pirates. The forerunner of the tanker fleet of the Standard Oil Company of California was the steamship George Loomis. She was launched in 1895 and was the first steel tanker to come out of a Pacific Coast shipyard. The R.C. Stoner is one tank ship of a modern fleet operated by the California Shipping Company for the Standard Oil Company of California. She can cruise at 16 knots to any part of the world with a full load of more than 6 million gallons. In order to help assure the free world of a continued supply of vital fuels, two of the largest vessels afloat carry crude oil to the refineries of Standard Oil Company of California. The Universe Challenger and her sister ship, the Universe Leader, are larger than the Queen Mary, each with a capacity of more than 30 million gallons. Additional tank ships are under construction for Standard Oil Company of California, and when completed, will help to meet the ever-increasing worldwide demand for petroleum products. Tank ships are constantly on the move to all parts of the world. When new oil fields are discovered or new markets are developed, the routes are changed or new ones are added. The tanker is one of the most economical and under certain conditions, the only method for transporting oil and petroleum products. A Standard Oil tanker is preparing to leave the Long Wharf at Richmond in San Francisco Bay, loaded down to her marks with many different kinds of petroleum products. The tug Standard Number 2 puts a line aboard so she can pull the tanker away from the dock. The docking master, skilled in maneuvering vessels, sings out to the first mate on the forecastle head, "Let go your spring line." The line is cast off the bollard on the wharf. The hawser is hove aboard. Again, the order rings out, "Let go the wire," and two dock wallopers cast off the mooring line. The skipper and the docking master give the orders as the ship leaves the wharf and the red flag is hauled down, indicating her petroleum cargo is loaded. The towboat pulls the ship's bow around. The tug's stern line is cast off and the tanker swings away from the wharf. With a full cargo, the J.L. Hanna heads for the Golden Gate, the open sea, and Alaska. Her tanks are filled with aviation and motor gasoline, jet fuel, lubricating oil, paint thinner, cleaning solvents, kerosene, stove oil, and diesel oil. Not all voyages are made during calm or flying fish weather. The sea has many moods, and this is called sea boots and oilskin weather. A loaded tanker is designed to ride low in the water, and the crashing waves sweep across her decks without damage. After a voyage of 5 days, the J.L. Hanna enters the quiet inlets that lead to many ports in Alaska. The tankers serving the far north are playing a vital part in the development of this vast territory. The Standard Oil Company of California installation at Seward is one of the principal distribution points for petroleum products in the state of Alaska. Others of this great fleet deliver petroleum to ports in South America. This ship's next port of call will be in Brazil. Rio de Janeiro and many other cities of the Southern Hemisphere depend upon the tanker service for a major part of their supply of energy-producing fuels. At Rio's busy waterfront, seagoing tankers discharge the cargoes so necessary to the life and growth of a modern city. The citizens of cities all over South and Central America are able to carry on their everyday activities because the petroleum that makes this possible is brought to their countries by the tank ships. Saudi Arabia is a treeless land of sun and sand, where oil is more abundant than good water. Here, American enterprise has developed oil resources which lessen the drain on America's oil reserves. These overseas sources of crude oil not only make it possible to keep down the costs of petroleum products in the American market, but the money spent in foreign countries brings prosperity to its people and helps raise their standard of living. This ship of the tanker fleet, loaded with crude oil, has just left the port of Ras Tanura in Saudi Arabia and is cruising through the warm waters of the Persian Gulf en route to a refinery in the United States. Papeete, on the island of Tahiti, is the capital of French Oceania and the commercial center for the far-flung islands of French Polynesia. At the little seaport, inter-island trading vessels, yachts, passenger ships, and oil tankers tie up at the busy wharves of this South Sea paradise, which has long been a mecca for artists and poets. The people on these islands enjoy motor cars, motor scooters, and electricity, all made possible by the regular visits of seagoing tankers bringing cargoes of petroleum products. In San Francisco Bay, the Long Wharf, 10 acres of concrete and steel, juts out more than a mile into the harbor from the Standard Oil Company of California Richmond Refinery. Machine shops, a repair berth, offices, sleeping quarters, a mess hall, and warehouses are part of this huge installation. Here we see interesting patterns formed by silt-laden river waters as they meet tidal currents and swirl around the ships. Four ocean-going tankers and one freighter, 8 barges, plus tugs, launches, and small cargo boats can berth at one time. Each of these vessels is manned by a captain and a crew. The captain, by the laws of the sea, is the master of his ship. He is responsible for the safety of the crew, the ship, and her cargo. The captain of the R.C. Stoner is a veteran in the tanker service of Standard Oil Company of California. The chief mate has also had many years of experience in tankers. which qualify him to direct the proper handling of the cargo and to supervise the maintenance of the ship. Sometimes as many as 15 different petroleum products are loaded for the same voyage, each going into separate tanks. A modern tanker contains a number of compartments. Utmost care must be taken to direct the various products into their proper tanks, thus assuring their purity. This ship, riding high in the water, is making a voyage with empty tanks, except for 2 or 3 which are filled with seawater as necessary ballast. She is en route from Richmond to Estero to take on a cargo of crude oil. Let's sign on and make this trip with her officers and crew. The watch officer, whose primary duty is to ensure the safety of the ship, is keeping a constant lookout and making continual checks of her position to assure that the ship is not standing into danger. On the bridge are located many types of modern instruments for the navigation and safety of the ship. The chart room adjoins the wheelhouse, and here we find the second mate charting the course of the ship at sea. The gyro compass shows him the true direction. This instrument measures the water's depth in fathoms. The radar antenna scans the surrounding sea. By the means of radar, the mariner is able to obtain the range and bearing of other ships, land masses, and buoys at night, in fog, and during other periods of poor visibility. A transmitter sends out an electronic pulse. When this pulse hits solid objects, such as land, a buoy, or another ship, these signals are reflected towards the ship, where the antenna picks them up and delivers them through a receiver to a viewing scope in the wheelhouse. As this process is repeated 1,500 times each second, the watch officer has a continuous flow of information. The direction finder tells this officer the position of the ship by the direction of radio beams sent out by Coast Guard stations located on the shore. In the radio shack, Sparks, a nickname given to seagoing radio officers, operates equipment that keeps the ship in communication with the shore and other ships. There's also an automatic alarm that can pick up an SOS sent by a ship in distress. In the captain's quarters, we find a well-stocked cabinet, which contains first aid supplies and approved pharmaceutical products which the ship carries for the health and safety of the men. Tanker seamen have a safety record of which they are proud. As a part of their safety training, they have weekly fire and boat drills. When the order is given, man your fire stations, the fire hoses are let out. The men then muster at the lifeboats, wearing orange life jackets which contrast with the blue of the sea. The cover of the boat is removed. The painter is led forward and the lifeboat swung out over the side into position for lowering. Petroleum fires are sometimes extinguished by covering them with a substance like thick soap suds called foam. The men are equipped and trained to fight such a fire should it occur. The company's tanker fleet has not had a cargo fire in over 25 years. The ship's decks are washed down and scrubbed, for a seaman has no higher praise than to say of his vessel, "She's shipshape," meaning that she's clean and orderly. Here, the seamen are stowing the gear, coiling up the manila ropes, and securing for sea. There is a saying, a place for everything, and everything in its place. A Phoenician sailor said 2,000 years ago, when a storm arises, there will be no time to look for what is wanting, or to put to rights what is awkwardly placed. There is still a place on modern ships for the traditional skills of the seaman. Tiger Joe, as he is known to his shipmates, is sewing canvas to repair a lifeboat cover. He learned this skill in the lofty, full-rigged ships of another era. An able seaman goes aloft to slush down a stay from a bosun's chair. He is covering the wire with a mixture of tallow and white lead to keep it from rusting. It's a messy job, but all in a day's work. The large galley with its modern equipment makes it possible to cook a wide variety of tempting dishes for the officers and crew. These tankers are noted for their excellent food. In a spick and span shop, the steward bakes rolls, pies, cakes, cookies, and other goodies. It's a far cry from the old days when bully beef, dried peas, and hardtack was the usual fare, to the present day when a wide variety of well-prepared dishes is served to the crew. Today, officers and crewmen alike enjoy the best of fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, milk, and poultry from the ship's ample food lockers. When not standing watch, the crew gather in their recreation room to relax and enjoy reading, radio, television, or a game of cards or chess. Probably the most dramatic method of loading a tanker with crude oil is at submarine moorings, such as the one at Estero off the central California coast. The launch Cayucas, named after a nearby community, brings out the mooring master, who, because of his knowledge and experience with local conditions, supervises the mooring and other operations of the ship. He climbs the Jacob's ladder and swings over the ship's rail. From the bridge, he orders, "Run number 3 line." The line is paid out to the men on the launch. Most of the ropes on ships are called lines. The Cayucas tows the heavy manila line to number 3 buoy. The eye of the line is put on a quick-release hook. After the line is attached, it is hove taut on a warping winch. When the lines are all fast, the ship lies securely held between her 2 anchors and 5 buoys. Here she can ride out a considerable blow and continue to load her cargo through the submarine pipeline. A tall spar buoy marks the seaward end of the submarine pipeline. The conical buoy marks the end of the flexible hose, which will connect the pipeline to the ship. The bull rope, which is attached to the end of the hose, is passed to the ship so that the hose can be taken aboard. As the hose is lifted from the depths of the sea, the launch takes a strain to keep the hose from kinking. After the hose is secured to the ship's gunwale by heavy chains, the blind flange is removed. The final step is to make the connection between the submarine hose and the ship. Before the ship can load her cargo of crude oil, the seawater taken aboard as ballast must be pumped ashore into settling ponds. The crude oil which our ship will load comes from the oil fields at the southern end of the San Joaquin Valley, more than 125 miles away. It is pumped through pipelines across the plains and mountains and collected in shore tanks at the top of these hills 700 feet above sea level. From the tanks, the oil flows by gravity to the ship lying offshore. The crude flows out to the ship at a top rate of 25,000 barrels per hour, or at about 40 miles per hour. The movement of the crude is controlled by air-operated valves under directions given by ship-to-shore telephone. This concrete block marks the beginning of the undersea pipeline. In about 8 hours, our ship will be loaded with 6.5 million gallons of crude oil. Insistence on cleanliness plus efficiency have made it possible to handle millions of barrels of oil with safety and without spillage. When the ship is loaded, the hose is returned to the sea. With a full cargo, the R.C. Stoner is on her way to the refinery. Returning to her home port, she passes under the Golden Gate Bridge and steams past the city of San Francisco on her way to the Long Wharf at Richmond, where she will discharge her cargo. At the Standard Oil Company of California Richmond Refinery, largest in the West, the crude we have aboard can be made into more than 1,000 products. More than 100 of these products in liquid form are carried in bulk on the tankers to the markets of the world. These numerous products flow through pipes that connect the refinery to the waiting tankers berthed at the Long Wharf. At the ship's side, heavy rubber hoses allow for the movement of the ship as she rises or settles with the changing weight of her cargo and moves with the rising and falling of the tide. The placing of the cargo within the ship is directed and controlled by valves. These valves are located in the bottom of the cargo tanks and are operated by valve wheels on deck. Here, a seaman closes a valve. A running record of the loading into as many as 27 different tanks is kept. Loading efficiency. The chief mate directs these operations. By use of an automatic tape, he determines the volume of finished products in each tank. Such devices are helpful because he seldom sees his cargo. Frequent samplings are taken of the liquids being loaded. These will be analyzed by refinery chemists as a final check to assure the purity of the various products. Here, drums of lubricating oil and other products are ready for shipment to far-off lands. They are important commodities in the petroleum market. After our tanker is loaded, the hoses are put ashore. The Plimsoll line, painted on the side of every merchant tanker, is the load line mark to assure that the ship is loaded safely for different seasons of the year and different oceans. Prior to each sailing, the third mate tests all the bridge gear. When all is ready, the lines are cast off and another voyage commences. As the Golden Gate Bridge falls astern, the ship heads for the open sea and a distant port. The tankers keep oil moving around the globe 24 hours a day, every day in the year. They bring crude oil from remote fields and deliver finished products to the four corners of the earth. The international code flags are saying to you in 7 languages, tankers away.